Perfect with no flaws at all are the laws of Allah. A way of life, a way of life, a way of life, a way of life. Islam is a way of life.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Amma ba'd, all praise is due to Allah. O Allah, send you blessings and exalt dimension and grant peace to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, his companions, his wives, and all those who follow them on the righteous path until the day of judgment. Brothers and sisters, welcome to a new episode and a continuation on the topic of marriage, which has become a conflict in some cases because of some disagreement amongst the parents who may have a particular way or mode or a viewpoint, and then the youth who may agree with many things we have said, yet they find that it's not materializing in real life. What are some of the reasons this issue continues to be a problem?
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillahi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa tada bihudahu wa ba'du. Among the problems and obstacles facing those who want to marry, or it can be external, it can be self-imposed. Usually, a lot of the youngsters delay marriage because of the qualities found in a spouse. So they put a long list of conditions. She has to look, she has to feel, she has to smell, lots of qualities and characteristics that can only be in the Hur al-Ain in paradise. This is what usually happens. So whenever the mother comes and says, son, I have this girl, she comes from a very good family, says, how is her hair? She says, no, I want it to be so-and-so. How is her skin? Is she
too
fair
picky?
Or dark? Yes, and he keeps on thinking of formulating something like what he sees in the media. So it's becoming stereotyping. 100 years ago, a man from Indonesia thought only a similar woman from Indonesia would be his dream girl. A man from the jungles of Africa could never consider a white woman as beautiful. A man from Norway would never think of a brunette to be beautiful. Now, with the media and with the stereotyping in the minds of the people, they have changed their standards of beauty. And this is extremely difficult. And that is why I know this in my country. Boys wanting to get married, and they get like 50, 60 proposals. And this is, no, this is not the one, this is not the one, and this is not the one. And this is why it is delayed.
Sheikh, it's very interesting is that, just to quickly mention what this is, and you mentioned the media, it's exactly the case. It's a very, very pernicious effect of the spread of television. But not television, it's the Western idea of beauty that's been spread. And it's very interesting that they found that, that women who normally were rated attractive to very attractive, because of the exposure to television, that men started to rate them as not attractive or not very attractive, because of the the Photoshop image of that doesn't exist. These women don't exist in real life at all. Exactly. And this is the thing. We have this problem in England with brothers. Wow. There's one particular brother. I said, Yakhi, what are you looking for? I can't believe it. Oh, I just want like this. What do you mean you just want like this? She doesn't exist. It's a really big problem, subhanAllah.
I know a brother practicing, he's an imam of masjid. He saw 30 or 32, I forgot the number, sisters. Imagine 32 families visiting, sitting with the girl, and he's practicing, he's imam. He's not,
Is he married yet?
He finally got married after like ages, like years, and his mother gave up on him. And I spoke to him, Akhi, have mercy on yourself. What you're doing is torturing yourself. So I want this, I want that. And this guy is not someone who watches movies. He is just picky. So this is, I believe, one of the reasons of delaying the marriage of males in the Muslim community, alongside a very important issue, which is expenses. A lot of the boys, they tend to want to marry. I taught in high school for 15 years. And of course, I was all the time with the teenagers. And every one of them said, Sheikh, I want to get married. Okay, what's stopping you? Are you crazy? I'm getting 5 riyals a day to buy my soft drink and sandwich, and this is all the money I have. Who would give me in marriage, and what would I do? How to do them? How to support my wife? And we always encourage people. If your son is a man, not a male, if your son is a true man who behaves like one, who can take responsibility, who is not impulsive, if he is such a person, akhi, it's your responsibility as a father to marry him. And you have to support him, and you have to provide for him. A lot of the parents, what would they say? No, I will not help my son. Let him depend on himself. Let him get a degree. Let him work. Akhi, you're paving the way for him to fall in haram.
It's so interesting. In Canada, I sat with a father who's originally from Lebanon. The same thing. His son wanted to get married, because I have this discussion all the time. His father was almost exactly verbatim. I thought you maybe heard the same speech.
It is a sickness, it is a disease, actually. And this, I mean, boils down to that. Do we really love our children as parents? If, as a father, I love my child, I want my child to be happy. I want my child to be happy, whether a boy or a girl, a daughter or a son. And I have in mind some real true stories. One happened in Riyadh, and this is a real father who loves his daughter. He saw this nice boy in the masjid, always in the masjid, punctual, never missing his salah, well-disciplined, well-mannered. So he started asking about him. And he found out that he was studying Sharia. So one day, after Asr prayer, he said, please come, I'm inviting you for a cup of tea. He took him to his house. While they were sitting in the sitting room, the girl came in, carrying the tray with the glasses or cups of tea. So the boy was so pious and righteous, immediately he lowered his gaze, because he thought it was an accident. A mistake. The girl was expecting her father to be alone. So the father said, it's not a mistake, it's not an accident, have a look.
That's a nice guy.
Yes, this is a father loves his daughter.
MashaAllah.
Have a look. The boy looked and then put his head down. Said, do you want to marry her? Couldn't say anything, he couldn't talk. His face turned red and shocked. But you know, I am still doing my degree. I said, I know everything about you. This is the key of the car, and this is the key of the flat. Yes, these are true stories. Do you want to get married? I got them married. So this is a father who loves his daughter. He wants his daughter to live her life happily. And this is a duty on the parents. And there are other examples, inshallah.
Perhaps, inshallah, we can hear some more of them after the break. We'll be back shortly. Assalamu alaikum.
A way of life, a way of life.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back. Yes, we were saying that sometimes the youth, or the people interested in marriage, they create their own set of obstacles which complicate the issue of marriage. And are there more examples of that?
I just wanted to pick up on the beautiful story, mashallah. May Allah bless more fathers in the ummah to be like this for their daughters.
Absolutely.
Because we know there's so many problems out there. Wallah, if we only feared Allah and subhanAllah feared Allah, we'll have no problems. And subhanAllah, I was speaking to a sheikh from Saudi, and he, exactly the same type of thing. He said that his daughter, I'm going to look, I need to find a good man for you. But her reaction was, are you going to look for someone for me? Isn't that a shame that the father looked for his daughter? Don't you have to wait for someone to... Is this true? Is this a custom?
No. At all it's not true. There's no shame in this. And the clearest example is Umar. May Allah be pleased with him. In the authentic hadith, Hafsa, the daughter of Umar, Umar himself went to Uthman when his wife died. So he told him, my Hafsa is ready if you want to get married. He said, no, I don't feel like getting married now because he's been recently widowed. So he went to Abu Bakr. And Abu Bakr was his closest companion and said, Abu Bakr, my daughter Hafsa now is without a husband, so if you have any interest, yani, I would not find someone like you. And Abu Bakr did not reply. He did not reject, he did not reply to him as if he's ignoring him. And few days later, it was the Prophet ﷺ proposing to Hafsa. Abu Bakr then came and said, Umar, wallahi, your daughter, yani, there's nothing wrong with her, and you're my best friend. But had I not heard the Prophet ﷺ mentioning Hafsa and his interest in her, I would have married her for myself. So Umar is going to 3 of his close friends, Uthman, Abu Bakr. Well, he did not go to the Prophet ﷺ, but eventually she ended up being one of the mothers of the believers, which indicates that, akhi, if I have a daughter, I have 13, alhamdulillah, what is the best thing that I wish for my daughters? That they are successful with a pious and practicing husband. Akhi, does he have to be a CEO of a company? Does he have to own Porsche or a Ferrari? No. This is the last, well, it would make some sense. Yeah, but seriously, I have 4 of my daughters married, alhamdulillah.
Yes, mashallah.
2 of them, I gave them in marriage 2 students in universities. And I stated that, inshallah, if they needed something, I'll provide for them. Because I'm buying a man. I'm buying a son-in-law. He's my son. So, unfortunately, there's no shame in that. So that sister or that daughter who said, it's shameful for you, my father, to go and look out, this is her point of view. However, we have to know that marriage cannot be done without her approval. So even if the father goes and look for a suitable person, that does not mean that the marriage takes place unless she approves.
What I understood, Sheikh, from what, it's just the culture. That was what her cultural environment was telling her, not because she thought it was a wrong thing to do. Rather, that's what the culture seemed to dictate.
This is correct.
Yeah.
Culturally, yes, people would think of, definitely she has a defect, there's something wrong with her, that her father is advertising, is marketing her. But of course, we're talking about an ideal Islamic society.
Yes, and that's what we need to talk about.
Also, yes, go ahead.
Sorry, sir.
Also, there is the issue of customs that you've just mentioned. It is a deterrent from getting married. For example, for a boy to get married, in some cultures, he is bound to marry his cousin. So from a very early age in some parts of Arabia, even when the child is like 2 months old and his cousin is
Not yet born.
automatically the parents say, my son is for your daughter. And they grow up on this, but the boy does not want to get married to his cousin. He doesn't have any feelings to her. So whenever he approaches his father, saying that I want to marry from outside of the tribe or the family, and the father insists, says, no marriage is going to take place unless you marry your cousin. I committed myself. So the boy does not marry. He keeps on waiting for his father to die or for the girl to change their parents change their mind and give her to someone else. I believe in some countries it's also...
In Pakistan, in England, we have this problem with this issue. With many of the Pakistani families as well. It's a very big issue, marrying the cousins. And it becomes more problematic because they want them to marry cousins back from Pakistan.
Different culture.
And the problem is often, their cousins are... And it could be either way. It could be the girl marrying a boy or the boy marrying a girl. But either way, what you find is they're not really educated, at least to the Western standards, which is very problematic. Being a father in the West, or a mother in the West to children who you can't contribute, becomes very... We have so many problems from this.
I receive literally emails weekly by the tens from UK from this problem, seeking divorce because her father gave her in marriage to her cousin who is from a different culture. She is born and brought up in the UK, in America, and they insist on getting her married to someone who is not educated, not the same culture, and simply for taking the citizenship. Or the opposite. Brothers being or choosing, selecting a woman from their own native country to come over, which is a lesser problem because the man is dominating. He is able to sort of handle his wife and bring her up in the way that suits him. But if it's the opposite, then it becomes
there are lots of
more
problems,
difficult.
yes.
I believe also in some countries that you cannot marry unless the eldest brother is married first. Isn't that?
This is another thing. Is that, so the eldest brother has to marry, then the next, and the next, and the younger brother can't marry till the elder brother or the elder sister. It could be brothers or sisters, but basically it has to start with the eldest and then it has to go down. So that's another thing that delays marriage.
And this is forbidden.
All of these things are not from Islam.
Yes.
I'd just like to add one thing here. I think it is the upbringing, how you bring up your children. If one brings up his daughter Islamically, educating her, teaching her that, and now she knows that, because in Islam, who will facilitate the marriage? The parent. Because we don't believe, or Islam doesn't permit that the girl will go and find a suitable partner. So the parents. So here there is a problem now. Anything comes through the parents, the youngsters or the youth being brainwashed. Anything comes through the parents, no. It is wrong. This is
myself.
Yes, this is one extreme.
This is another problem.
Yeah, this is one extreme. They don't say, okay, give it a second thought, think about it, see the proposal, see the guy, istikhara, all these things. So because this is, we become so distant from our Islam, because when we go back to our deen and see the history of Islam, we see many, many beautiful stories, which are totally different from what we hear today. And you know the famous story of the son of Abdul Malik ibn Marwan. Imagine the son of the Khalifa proposing to Musayyib, to asking for the hand of his daughter. He refused, refusing the son of the Khalifa. He said, no.
This is the sheikh who went to the student?
Exactly. This is the same story. One of his students was missing, and he said, what happened to him? They said, we don't know. So he went to the house of his student, knocked on the door, said, who is it? He said, Saeed. The student said, never crossed my mind that could be my sheikh.
This, of course, after he met his student in the masjid, and he asked him,
of course,
why were you absent? He said, well, I was married and my wife died.
Yes.
And I had to take 4 or 5 days, to take care of her.
Right, yes.
Then he asked him, why don't you get married again? And he
Exactly,
said, who will give me in marriage? So I said, I will give you in marriage. Do you accept? And the boy, the student said, yeah, I accept. And you would think that he was playing with him.
But is it true
yeah.
that he said she's blind, or she's something, or she's never seen?
No, that's about Imam Abu Hanifa. That's a different story. But subhanallah, I mean, this is another father who loves his daughter. And he buys happiness, not only a man, happiness.
Continue the story when he came and knocked.
Okay, knocked on the door, and he opened, and he asked him, and of course the rest is history, accepted the offer. But what happened? After a few days of the marriage, he wanted now to go back to the circle, to attend the circus of the sheikh. His wife pulled him down. He said, where are you going? He said, to attend your father's circus. He said, what for? He said, to learn. He said, his knowledge is with me. I will sit down. I'm going to teach you.
She became his sheikh.
Okay? You see? This is our Islam, brothers and sisters.
But this shows how the father brought up.
Exactly. Subhanallah. So that's why we need to bring up our children. Subhanallah, in Islam, subhanallah, what the Prophet ﷺ said, again, it goes to the Iman. He said, the one who was not married before, al-Bikr, okay, the virgin, her conscience is what? Silence. My daughter, there is a man who's this, who's that, who's this, and he's proposing. Her face will blush, and she will keep quiet. And the ulama, they say, why that the lawgiver considered the silence as a sign of acceptance? Because they said the reply is easy. No is not difficult to say no. But to say yes, it's a bit for a girl who is having haya. Today, what happened?
What car does he drive? How does he look?
Okay, I want him, I love him, and all that stuff you hear.
The one I want.
Yeah. Hana, it is the upbringing again.
And subhanallah, yani, this brings us back to looking at what pleases Allah Azza wa Jal and the Prophet ﷺ, not what pleases the society. And it is quite important for us to look at the things that preserve this society. Feeding one mouth is like feeding two mouths. It's not gonna harm you if you make your son marry. However, this crossed my mind. The issue of the criticism that some may say the Muslims always have arranged marriage. And they are criticizing it as if it's something negative. Is it something negative?
Well, statistically, no. Statistically, arranged marriages, even in England, even in UK, they admit that arranged marriages are much more successful. They last longer, people tend to be more happy. I mean, so, subhanAllah, I mean, we know from Islam that's the case, but it's interesting that the kuffar, even they admit themselves, that our system is shown to be better.
Is it forced? Is
No,
arranged
it's not
marriages
forced. Of course, this is yeah, this is
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
There's two things: forced marriage, but we have to be honest. This is another thing that is another extreme. Now we're talking about what prevents marriage, but we do have amongst our communities, Muslim communities throughout the world, the phenomenon, unfortunately, of forced marriage. I personally know of a case, a very extreme case, where the girl had no idea. She was in a room, and the next thing she know, a man appeared with a bottle, actually, unfortunately, of alcohol, and basically, you know, I suppose raped her because she never gave her consent. She didn't, and that, I'm your husband, that's it. This was her marriage. So we do have these things taking place.
But
as
by
well,
the way,
unfortunately.
Islamically, this is not a marriage.
No.
Yeah, of
Even
course.
if the father
Yes.
gives his approval and consent to marry this man to the girl, and the girl does not give her consent, this is not marriage.
Yes, it's not valid as a
It's
marriage.
nullified. It
Yes.
has no grounds at all.
Allah musta'an. Our time is up for this episode, but we will continue, inshallah, in the next episode with more about marriage. Jazakumullah khair for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the future, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
A way of life.